Hello and welcome to You Asked For It. I am your host, Ann Page. Today I have a guest who's a prolific singer and songwriter and has been doing singing and songwriting for the past 40 years. I could tell you many accolades about my guest, but however, you only need to look upon his website, which we will show you at the end of the show yourselves. And you could read so many. When I went there to look and study about my guests, there were so many, I just couldn't choose just one, so I encourage you to do that. My guest today is Martin Swinger. Thank you so much for being my guest today, Martin.
And thank you, it's an honor to be here.
Yeah. And last fall I attended a music event, and there were many musicians performing, and you were one.
Right.
And I loved what you did so much that I approached you and I said, I have this show, would you please be my guest? And you were so gracious and you said yes.
Oh, well, I'm very honored by the invitation. Thanks very much.
And Martin lives in Augusta, Maine.
Yep.
And tell us a little bit about yourself, Martin. What interested you in songwriting and music initially?
I've just always been interested in music. When I was about 6 years old, Mom and Dad brought a piano into the house, and I remember waking up one morning hearing a sound I'd not heard in our house before. I was the youngest of three, and so we all ended up getting piano lessons. I didn't feel comfortable with piano lessons. Something about learning to associate that note with what my fingers were doing, I had a tough time with that, but I'd spend hours and hours playing at the piano. I'd be watching my fingers, but just creating and improvising and playing around with it. And before too long, I had music teachers who appreciated where I was coming from and decided, okay, well, that's a fine way to learn too, and they encouraged me. So along with creating melodies, then I started, well, you got to have words, and so I started adding words to them. By the time I was in high school, I had a choir teacher who started taking me home with her on Thursday afternoons, and she'd say, have you heard this song on the radio? And I'd say, yes. She'd say, play a little bit of it. And I would do that, and then she'd say, well, wait a minute, what if you need to get it into another key so that you can sing it stronger? And she'd make me move my hands up a couple and start figuring out what to do with the sharps and flats and that kind of thing. But that was the first encouragement I got, really, to just explore music in my very own way. For writing, I'd always loved poetry, loved reading, and loved listening to music, so writing songs was sort of a natural thing. I'll have to say I wrote a lot of really terrible songs when I started, but that's how you do it, right? You got to try.
And who were some of your mentors early on?
Mentors were both poets and musicians. When I was in high school, I really got into oral interpretation, which is reading poetry out loud. So that was sort of the beginning of that performance element. But I'd always sung in church choirs. So I was reading a lot of Robert Frost and Carl Sandburg, a lot of American poets. So learning how poetry is structured. And at the same time, I was really excited about Simon and Garfunkel, and excited about Peter, Paul, and Mary, So that all kind of came together in high school time, was when I started saying, well, I can write songs. I can do this. I can do this. Finally got into college and was engaged in some theater projects where I was writing songs for theater pieces we were doing, and hadn't gotten so much into just writing personal songs. But then when I did, just on a whim, I sent one of my songs into the Great American Songwriting Competition and won an honorable mention. And this was like 21 years old. And that kind of cemented it all. Okay, I'm going to keep doing this.
That's exciting. We had a very interesting pre-conversation before this interview, and I was struck by something you told me, and I've only heard it from one other musician, and I've talked to many. And what you told me was that you would hear sounds in everyday life, wheels turning or the wind blowing through the breeze, and a song would just come to you. And when you told me that, I knew that you were just saturated to your soul with music.
Oh, yeah. I've always had music going in my head. I refer to it as the radio. I can remember years, walking to the end of the street to catch the school bus. And I always had some piece of music going in my head, and I was walking with the rhythm of it, and I was improvising on that. Or yes, I'd find a Coke machine that had a certain tone to it. Well, what note is that? Okay, let's see if I can sing around that. And so I've just always found ways to sing, found ways to make music. It's definitely a part of me, and sometimes it's a distracting part of me,
Well,
because
I
that
think it's
radio keeps
delightful.
going. No matter what else is happening in life, that radio keeps going.
I think it's delightful. And I wanted to ask you about the story you told me about a song you had written
Yes.
about an autistic boy. It so fascinated me.
Mm-hmm.
Please share it with my audience. I know everybody would be interested in this.
I'd love to do that. I have a good friend who is going to college in Syracuse, New York, and went out to visit her, and she introduced me to her friend Gene. And when Gene was in school, he was referred to as the retard, because that's what they called kids with autism in those days. They didn't know what autism was, and so they didn't know what to do with him. Gene sat in school, and somebody would try to put crayons in his hand or find some way to distract him, keep him involved, and then finally the school just got tired of having him there. This was before schools had to take people in and had to learn how to work with them. So they finally, let Gene go from school. But the University at Syracuse was working on a program called Facilitated Communication, where they work with people who have difficulty speaking, and they try to find ways to communicate. And what they found with Gene was that if he pushed against somebody else's hand, if he could feel that pressure, he could aim his finger. They'd say, Gene, point at the picture of the rooster. Gene would point at the picture of the rooster. Well, this was the first time they were recognizing that they'd ask him to do something and he could actually do it. So it's showing that he's cognitive. Point at the rooster, point at the dog, and they'd work with smaller and smaller targets, till one day they sat him down in front of a computer keyboard. They didn't know what he knew or understood, except that he could identify things. They sat him in front of a computer keyboard and said, point at anything you want to. And Gene pointed out, I-M-I-N-H-E-R-E. First thing he ever told anybody was in this method. He said, I'm in here.
Amazing.
And it was just a brilliant revelation for everybody. So they started working with him more. He started writing articles. He has a brilliant mind, beautiful, beautiful way of expressing himself, but nobody ever knew that. And he referred to, in one of the articles he wrote, he referred to himself as Pinocchio, because Pinocchio knew that he was real inside, but what all the rest of the world saw was this puppet. So that was very inspiring to me, that idea of, like Pinocchio, he was swallowed by a whale. And from inside, he knows he's there, but what the outside sees is this whale that he's not in control of.
So you wrote a song about it.
Yeah.
Will you
May I
sing
share
it
that?
for us?
Oh,
Yes,
great. I'd love to.
please.
I'd love to. So this is a song called Wooden Boy. I'm the wooden boy. It's what they think of me. At school and on the playground, that's all I'll ever be. I cannot join the fun. They push me from the games. I see their mocking faces. I hear them call me names. Mother says my real name and turns down the light. We have to say our prayers before we sleep tonight. She folds my hands together like I was a toy. I pray that when I wake I'll be a real boy, with my hanging head and these ink spot eyes. No one comes near. With an eager mind and a longing heart, I'm in here. I'm in here. Father doesn't listen when people say he's just an old fool who should throw me away. They say I'm broken, can't come to any good. What is a father's love to a boy of wood? With my hanging head and these ink spot eyes, no one comes near. With an eager mind and a longing heart, I'm in here. I'm in here. Mother lifts me up to lay me on my bed, tucks in the checkered blanket, kisses me on the head. Father reads a fairy tale, a wooden boy like me, who's swallowed by a whale, but rises from the sea. I am the wooden boy, maybe all you see, a puppet on a string, but there is more to me. And all I ask of you is to be understood, to see the boy beneath the boy who's made of wood. I am in here, I am in here, I am in here. Here I am.
That was beautiful and so inspirational to parents who have children with autism. Thank you so much for sharing that story. And you do a lot of work with children, don't you, Martin?
I do. I go into schools and teach songwriting to kids. Kids need to learn creativity. I think these days we're very busy teaching them math and science, teaching them to take in answers and be able to respond with those answers. And we're not teaching them so much to think creatively, to think around a problem. What are the possibilities? And songwriting is like the world's greatest jigsaw puzzle. You get to go any direction you want to go with it. That's what I love about songwriting. And so I try to share that with kids. And so what I do is going into the classrooms, I'll ask the kids, kindergarten to first grade, what are you studying? What are you learning right now? And I get them to explain it to me. I won't let the teacher jump in. I want the kids to explain stuff to me so it really comes out in their language, in their words. So I'll write down whatever they tell me about their lesson. We check with the teacher to make sure it's all factually correct. She's learning what these kids know. I've had many teachers come to me and say, I didn't realize they understood the lesson as well as they do, because they've had to explain it to me. But so we get on one side of the board all the information, and then we decide on a song that everybody's familiar with, everybody in the classroom knows. I draw a blank version of the song, just with, I sing it, but I just draw dashes for where the words go. And so they get that visual picture of how a song is written in verses, and we mark where rhymes go so they see those rhymes. And then we start with the subject. What is the subject? What is the song about? We start with that line, and the kids end up creating a song to help them remember information. One of my favorite examples, I was working with kids up in Skowhegan. Canaan Elementary School, 4th grade class, we're studying the digestive system. And I thought, oh boy, this is going to be this is going to be pretty wild. But through the course of the conversation that we had, they ended up writing a really powerful and very fun song about the digestive system. It goes, digestive system is the thing that gives us our nutrition. We use it every time we eat. Here's its composition. First the teeth chew up and down, tongue moves food around. Food gets softened with saliva needed to get it down. Muscles in your esophagus push the food down more to the stomach where the juices really start to pour. Small intestine breaks the food down, turns it into energy. So blood vessels carry it all throughout me. Finally, the large intestine pushes through the body, squeezes with its muscles, and waste goes in the potty.
That's so cute.
Wasn't it great? And what I loved was, we got to talk about power words. They realized, body and potty rhymed. And we said, where does that power word go? If it's anywhere in this song except the last word, nobody's going to hear anything. So we had some really wonderful conversations in creating the song, and they ran out on the playground, started grabbing their buddies, and let me tell you about the digestive system. And all the kids passed the test. Every one of them passed the test. We need more mnemonic songs like the ABC song. Absolutely. And so it's my honor to be able to go into classrooms and do that. I haven't gotten to do that in Maine very much these days because our budgets for arts visitations has been cut about 6 years ago.
But you've written a workbook.
I've got a songbook. It's called Easy A's. It's 70 fun songs to nourish your brain. And it's all songs written in the classroom with kids, primarily Maine kids. And it's got a little CD in the back. Oops, it's got a little CD in the back of it as well. So if you feel shy about singing, you can pull out the CD there and play that and sing along with it. And it's a great way to learn information. I think I'm as smart as a fifth grader now.
I hope you can use this show to find an underwriter to produce you to go into various school systems to
Thank
do
you
this,
very
because I
much.
think it's wonderful, absolutely
Some
wonderful.
towns do have support for that kind of thing. Brunswick has a really good program called Arts Are Elementary, where they've found funding from the nation and the state as well as local businesses. And they every year bring artists into the schools. Lewiston Auburn has LA Arts, which is another good program. But the smaller towns need that, and
They do.
just to help bring a little bit more fun. Arts is what gets cut when the budgets get tight, and kids need to learn to think creatively. It's part of
Absolutely.
how we learn.
Now, last week I had a guest on my show, Allison Lee Freeman.
I love
And
Allison.
Well, she told me she loved you, and she told me that you were her mentor. She was quite excited when I told her that you would be here this week, and she said that she's going to be performing with you performing in a program that you'll be performing in at the Chocolate Church.
At
Is
the
that
Chocolate
correct?
Church. That's right. On Valentine's Day, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we're doing what is called the Hot Chocolate Valentine Cabaret. There at the Chocolate Church on Valentine's Day, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's like $20 a person, but the idea is it's a fundraiser for the Chocolate Church. It's a great organization that you've got here in town, nonprofit organization. You can even write it off on your taxes, if you do individualized taxes. And it promises to be a very fun afternoon with a lot of great musicians. And of course, the theme of the day is love, but love comes in a lot of packages.
It
So I
does.
promise it'll be very entertaining. It's not all going to be mushy.
Now, and you have some other events coming up in the future. Could you tell me what they are?
Yeah, I'm very excited to have some good things happening. On February the 6th, I'm performing at the Ice and Smelt Festival in Bodenham, which is going to be a lot of fun. That's the first time I've ever done that, from 2 to 4 in the afternoon. At the Augusta Civic Center on February the 28th, it's a Sunday afternoon, they're doing the Kid Baloo, and this is put together by 98.9 FM. I hope that's correct. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But it's from noon until 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's bouncy houses and performers and just all kinds of things, resources for kids as well as just fun. That's February 28th. On March 18th, I'm performing. I have a little trio. It's called Brio, and Brio in Italian means zest for life.
Yes.
And we have a lot of fun. It's 3 of us singing together. We've been singing together for 7 or 8 years now. And we do a lot of really fun music, some a cappella music, some improvisational music, and some that's practiced. Some of it's our own songs. We're all 3 writers. So we do some of our original things as well as other people's music. And that's going to be at the Side Door Coffee House in Brunswick at the Unitarian Church. And that is March 18th, Friday night.
And didn't you just come back from touring in Florida?
I was one of the lucky winners last year at the South Florida Folk Festival, and so I was invited back this year to perform at it. Boy, how lucky can you be to be invited to Florida in January?
That's pretty lucky.
Indeed. I'm a very lucky boy. I have a very good life, so I'm real pleased with that. So yeah, I get some good opportunities. There's a real interesting one coming up in August. I'm helping to present a conference called The Power of Words. And this is a conference for anybody who writes or sings or does poetry or does any kind of work with words to make the world a better place.
I love that.
So, and that's what I try to do with my music. There are people who go into prisons and teach poetry, writing, finding ways to help people express themselves. And that's what this whole conference is about. And that is August 12th through 14th down at Ferry Beach in Saco, Maine. It's open to anybody who wants to attend. If you just Google Power of Words Conference, you'll find out all about it. It's going to be a great weekend with people from all over the world. fantastic poets and performers all together, and we're all talking about how we can change the world with words.
That
I believe
sounds
we can.
great. How
Yeah.
about another song, Martin?
I'd love to do that. I'd
Okay.
love to, if I may. Thank you. Thank you very much. I like to write true stories, but what's true for me and what's true for you may be two different things. But this is a true story. I was cleaning, vacuuming the room, a carpet corner caught in the vacuum, burning rubber, a cracking sound, the motor faltered. Investigation found I'd broken something fragile, shining, some little plastic part. The little plastic part that makes the whole thing work, designed by its creator to snap off with a jerk and leave the whole thing worthless. It's never gonna start, 'cause there is no replacement for that little plastic part. There's good news, bad news, your stuff can be repaired, but it'll cost more than it's worth to get inside of there. There's tabs and switches, buttons, belts and springs, and chintzy hinges infesting everything. The gear that doesn't ratch, the catch that doesn't catch it when it falls apart. The little plastic part that makes the whole thing work, designed by its creator to snap off with a jerk and leave the whole thing worthless. It's never gonna start, 'cause there is no replacement for that little plastic part. The little plastic part was once a dinosaur. Could be anything, it's just a metaphor, 'cause everything has got one part of the grand design, the straw that breaks the camel, and I've discovered mine. I wrote a letter. Did you get it? I told you I loved you, I don't regret it, but I didn't hear from you, birthday or Valentine's. I'm a little slow, it took me a little time, but I finally got a clue what to expect from you. You didn't break my heart, just the little plastic part that makes the whole thing work, designed by its creator to snap off with a jerk and leave the whole thing worthless. It's never gonna start, 'cause there is no replacement for that little plastic part. That little plastic part. For that little plastic part.
Delightful. I loved it.
Thanks very much.
Martin, you have a new CD. Can you tell us about your new CD?
I've got a newish CD that's been
You-
around for a little while. It's an album called Moon. You can tell because it's got the big moon on the front of it, moon on the back of it as well. I'm real pleased with this album. It's the one I've done most recently. If you want to know more about me, if you want to find my music or find out anything about me, you can Google Swinger, and you'll end up in some very interesting places. But if you Google Martin Swinger, M-A-R-T-I-N Swinger, you'll find me. I've got a lot of things on YouTube. I've got a couple of websites, a website for my adult music and a website, swingersongwriter.com, for the children's music and family music there. So I'm easy enough to find. So now I'm working on my next album, writing a collection of songs and having fun pulling those together, and can't wait to get the opportunity when I've got enough of the songs together and can start on the next album.
I think you have a lot of fun, Martin.
I do have
in
a lot
life.
of fun.
That's great.
I like taking an unusual perspective to telling stories. I've got a song that is a lullaby sung by Mama Fish. what would she sing to her little babies? You're all going to die. You look like food to me. It's a real cute little lullaby. But I enjoy taking a different perspective on things. I write kind of unusual songs, but to me they're a lot of fun. And I do get feedback from other people that they're very unique and very engaging and imaginative.
I love your humor.
Thank you.
I love the way your mind works.
Thanks.
And I think you have just an astoundingly beautiful voice.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so delighted to have you here today as my guest.
And it's an honor to have been asked. Thank you very much. I
Thank
love
you.
singing. Do you like to sing?
I do love to sing.
Yay.
And when I heard you perform in public, you sang The Story of Love.
Aha.
And I have been singing it all day long, thinking of you. It was so beautiful and it just touched me deeply.
Yeah, good. Well, singing is good for you. Singing is good for you. Sing every day, you'll be a lot healthier.
I believe that. Thank you so much. Martin Swinger, a prolific singer, songwriter. We embrace you as a son of Maine.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. And thank you for watching. You asked for it. Sweet dreams, everyone. Thank you.